Frozen places are known to host an infinity of secrets under their layers of ice, and due to the rising temperatures in our planet, thanks to global warming, many of these discoveries are surfacing. Some are good, others incredibly bad. The truth is that many of these findings usually happen in Siberia, Russia, one of the coldest places on Earth. Here, many people venture to hunt reindeers, but some of them come back home with a little more than they expected. From dead bodies of weird animals that are not from this era, to the experience to have seen holes in the ground that, literally, remind us of the end of the world. It's interesting and, at the same time, scary to think in the great number of things that could be found in the near future if global warming continues at this rate. However, scientists are anxious to know more about them, since these findings reveal a lot of information about the past. Icy climates allow researchers to perform some tests on corpses that lie intact. That is to say, that they act like some sort of portal that allow us to discover new species of plants and animals that one time wandered on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, and even different diseases. Get ready, because in this video, we will show you 5 creepy things found under the ice. Number 5. Disturbing message in a bottle. July 10, 1959. Paul T. Walker, a young geologist born and raised in Ohio, built a mound of stones in Ward Hunt Island in northern Arctic Canada and hid in it a letter inside a 250 milliliters bottle. The mound was located in a distance of 3 feet from a glacier, so Walker wrote in that piece of paper a series of instructions for those who managed to find the bottle. He asked to measure again the distance between the mound and the glacier with the purpose of proving that global warming was and is a reality. Unfortunately, Paul could never go back to his university office or continue with his investigations since he suffered a stroke weeks later and died in November that same year. He was only 25 years old. However, 54 years later, a scientific team from Laval University in Quebec that was exploring Ward Hunt Island found his bottle. Following the instructions from Walker, the biologists took measures again and found, thanks to GPS, that the distance between the mound of stones and the glacier had increased to 303 feet in those 54 years. This further indicates that in the 50s, there was already some suspicion about the thaw owed to global warming. After reading and photographing the message, the research team left the bottle with the same letter where they wrote down the new measures and asked the next brave person to find it and measure the distance between the mound of stones and the glacier again. Number 4. Alien markings on ice. According to scientists, ice can present itself in 1,000 different ways, and normally there always is a rational explanation for each and every one of them. But in 2013, 2 friends that were walking in a frozen lake in Utah found something really inexplicable. This weird circular-shaped figure appeared in the middle of a frozen water body. As you can see, the whole shape is dotted with small holes emerging from its center. Inside of each of them can be seen some kind of smaller geometric, white bodies that float inside. In fact, the young man did not hesitate to try to touch them and claimed that they had a jelly-like texture. Before such a picture, and like it was expected, they did not hesitate to think that it was something related to aliens. After going viral with the video, a great number of theories emerged. Some speculated that it could be an UFO landing mark, and many others commented that it was in fact nothing more and nothing less than eggs from another world. Nonetheless, they didn't take any sample, so it was impossible to conduct a study to determine the nature of the find. The more skeptic ones commented that it could be coffee, salt used in ice fishing, or just a natural formation. Whatever it was, it's quite disturbing, don't you think? Number 3. A new virus. As you already know, global warming is a phenomenon that results in the melting of the poles. This is much more dangerous than we all think. In the middle of the 20th century, a group of researchers succeeded in discovering the biggest virus in history, Pythovirus subaricum. But despite its big size, this is not the strangest thing about this microorganism. It has been able to remain 30,000 years under the ice in Siberia at about 98 feet deep between the icy layers of the Siberian tundra, known as permafrost. The pythovirus has remained latent for at least 30,000 years, away from the light and oxygen, keeping its genetic material in a perfect state of conservation. According to the scientists, the virus doesn't pose a risk to people and animals, but don't rule out that the virus could be found in some animals or plants in the layers of the permafrost. They also believe that this virus could have infected the last Neanderthals that lived on Earth. Global warming ensures that little by little, the superficial layers of snow from the permafrost start to melt, so that each year several microorganisms are exhumed, some of them totally unknown. That's why the scientists warn that if some isolated virus that is not infecting any organism remains in those layers and somehow gets to activate itself, that could create the perfect recipe for disaster. Number 2. The Thing. Apart from the virus, the frozen places of our planet also host innumerable creatures that died and remained frozen in ginormous ice blocks, from wolves to impressive mammoths. However, some of these findings revealed creatures that weren't known before or that are presumably extinct. You probably have heard about The Thing, the sci-fi horror movie that relates the story of a group of American researchers in the Antarctica that find a species of alien parasite able to assimilate and imitate other organisms. Something similar was the discovering of Expedition Antarctica in the beginning of 2019 during a 50-day trip across the Austral Ocean. After 12 hours of waiting and at a depth of 11,482 feet under the ice, a depth so high as the Swiss Alps, the research team managed to surface with 12 buckets of mud and a curious jelly-like specimen that looked like a mix of slug with a dwarf hippopotamus or even a miniature elephant, depending on how you look at it. To this day, the creature hasn't been identified, and also, it's unknown if there could exist more exemplars in the seabed. Meanwhile, faced with such uncertainty about this weird animal, many people point out that the scientists should leave alone this weird being to avoid a situation like in the famous movie of 1982. Number 1. Ancient plant species. Like we had said before, Siberia is one of the coldest places on Earth, but this has not stopped the scientists from discovering different plant species that had remained frozen in the permafrost and that, to this day, were totally unknown to mankind. Do you remember Scrat, the funny squirrel from the animated movie Ice Age? His principal and only purpose the whole movie was protecting an acorn from the glaciation to guarantee his livelihood upon a winter that, sadly, would drag on for 90,000 cold years. Now, his little secret has been revealed. It's not about the famous acorn from the movie, but a handful of seed from a species known as Silene stepnophila, a flower native plant from Siberia that was buried in the burrow of an Arctic squirrel during the Ice Age. But there's something more surprising in this story, and that is that a scientist team has managed to make them germinate 32,000 years after its formation. The seeds were frozen 125 feet under the permafrost, surrounded of all kinds of rest from megafauna from this era, like mammoths, bisons, and woolly rhinos. However, this incredibly plant has been able to come back to life and even grow flowers and fruits, as if just a few months has passed since its birth. Isn't this incredible? Zero Zone. Frozen boa constrictor. Did you think that was all? No, we can still surprise you a little more. Although this time, we won't talk about new species of animals, plants, or viruses. In January 2019, Amanda Stahl got a surprise when she came across a frozen boa constrictor while she walked near her property along her dog. It's about giant snakes that can reach a size between 9 and 11 feet long. They usually live in areas with little water, like deserts, forests, and farmlands. So, how could it have reached there and end up frozen? Amanda suggests that it possibly was somebody's exotic mascot that ended up releasing it, although she assured that the animal had teeth marks all over its body. Adaptation plays an essential role in the species' evolution, since natural selection guaranteed the descendants of those who can adapt better to the environment and its eventual variations, extinguishing instead, and those who can't manage it get extinct instead. This was the case of many dinosaurs that developed extraordinary characteristics to be able to survive. Would you like to know more about these stories? If that's a yes, take a look at our next video.